Hey everybody, it's Matt. This is a 10-minute Bible Hour podcast, and I want to start by going somewhere probably painful today. I want to invite you to think about the last time you blew out a relationship. Not the last time somebody did it to you. I want you to picture that moment where you dispensed with all subtlety. You knew the person you were about to burn was going to know that you know. No, I'm not talking about like northern Midwest passive aggressiveness where you kind of got in a little dig or maybe that wasn't cool. I'm not talking about American South passive aggressiveness, which is different than northern Midwest passive aggressiveness. I'm not talking about Netherlands passive aggressiveness. Oh, wait. They don't have passive aggressiveness over there. They just say exactly what they're thinking all the time. Maybe good on them? But back to my question. None of that stuff. I mean like a straight up burn down the relationship kind of incident. Can you think of a time you've done that? Hey, if you can't, you are either frankly very self-sacrificing and kind, and that's awesome. There are people who I really don't think have any of those battle wounds or any of those casualties relationally in the rearview mirror. I think it's rare, but I think it happens. Or you just don't see it and you think that everybody was hard on you when the reality is some people were hard on you, but you were tough on other people. If we love people and we have relationships and we hang out in close proximity with each other, we're going to screw things up. Sometimes we might even screw things up in a really hurtful, calculated way. Well, let me take you to the next place then. If you can picture a time that you burned a relationship, can you then picture a time when you had to go back and interact with the person with whom you burned the relationship? Or maybe a time when you had to go back and work with them? Or maybe a time when you absolutely had to go and try to make the relationship right, and you actually wanted to, it was actually eating at you, but circumstances kind of forced you to, and so you're like, there's no way this person is going to believe that I'm actually sorry, and that I actually want it to be good, and that I actually regret my part in all this or my total ownership of all this as it might be, but I got to take that chance because now I need them and now I'm over a barrel. If you can picture that, I'm not better than you or different than you. I can picture that. And what a sick feeling it is to go with your hat in your hand, whether you have regret or not, and to go and acknowledge that maybe you were wrong about some stuff and that maybe it would be a good idea for you to work together again, or even, could you please help me? That well, how the turntables have turned moment is probably one of the most difficult things anybody has to do relationally. And we get a few examples of that unfolding in the Bible. One that I want to look at in the Old Testament that points to a story that Jesus tells in Luke in the New Testament. But first of all, Matthew 28. Verse 9, suddenly Jesus met them, this is the women, at the tomb. Greetings, he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, don't be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. Sounds innocuous, right? Like, hey, you know the guys. We're running around together. We're like the whole team and everything. Let them know we're going to get the band back together. It's going to be in Jerusalem. Go let them know. Like, they're obviously going to be super happy. But let's think about how they are going to respond to that. On the one hand, I think they're all hoping that Jesus is who he said he was and that he's going to come back to life and that all the things about God and eternity and everything are all true. But also they left it in a pretty weird place with Jesus. He told them, like, hey, y'all are going to abandon me. And just like the prophet said, they're going to strike at the shepherd and the sheep. They're going to scatter. I mean, how about Peter? That guy, the last time he's mentioned by name, and not just as a part of the group, which we're going to get here in a few verses, but the last time we actually see something about specifically Peter, he's just denied Jesus 3 times after saying that he'd never leave him, after cutting a dude's ear off to try to stick up for Jesus after Jesus said, don't do stuff like that. It's been a tough run for Peter. The last time we specifically hear from Peter, he's running off into the night weeping. I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of the whole warning of Jesus about people outside the gates of the kingdom where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth and bitterness. It is a rough draw. Jesus goes to the cross. It looks like maybe only John sneaks in there and is around. The women are there. But all of his disciples, the guys who were supposed to carry this thing forward in the future, according to the commissioning they received in Matthew 10, they're nowhere to be found. They bailed on him in his moment of need. They couldn't even stay awake to support him on the last night. They couldn't read the signs, even though they can read the weather to know, like, hey, it's going down tonight. This is it. Effectively, they sold him out. Not literally. I mean, only Judas did that, but they bailed on him. They left him to twist in the wind. After all he had done for them, after all he'd demonstrated he was, they were nowhere to be found in this important, crucial moment. So then the women are told, like, hey, just go tell the brothers that we're going to meet in Galilee and we're going to go from there. Well, when you think about what kind of terms Jesus is on with the disciples, that little invitation carries a lot more weight. I mean, what are the disciples doing right now? They're sitting around thinking about how much they blew it. They're terrified they're going to get killed as well. They're sick to their stomach with that feeling that you get where you just stare down the drain of the shower when you've screwed up a relationship and you look at the yuck run off of your body and swirl around and vanish down to wherever drains take things away. You sit in a chair in the late afternoon and watch the opportunity of another day just disappear like Bella in the attic in that Twilight movie. Feeling sick, gross regret about your part in whatever is broken. You lay in bed and stare at the ceiling, angry at your brain that it won't leave you alone and just let you get some rest because you're racked with guilt and you're replaying all of the relational steps and the ethical relational decisions that you made along the way that put something that was once beautiful, a relationship that you once cherished, in this awful place, and you're trying to talk yourself into how you were right. Maybe you call some people up or take them out for drinks at Applebee's and try to lay out a case for somehow what you did, it made sense, but the reality is the situation is living in your head rent-free because you know you got it wrong. And I think that's where the disciples are, staring down drains, looking out of windows as the opportunity of the day sneaks by, trying to talk each other into thinking they maybe had to do that, and just generally feeling sick that the most meaningful relationship that not just they, but that anybody who walks this planet to that point or since could ever experience was wrecked, and they got to own that wreckage. They got to own that they never get that beautiful, precious moment back. They only got one chance to stand there with Jesus when everything went down, and they all blew it. And then what's the message that Jesus comes back with? Don't be afraid. You're a part of my family and therefore accepted, forgiven, and we have things we need to do. So let's get together at the old stomping grounds, the old cruising strip, and pick up where we left off. I'm not going to make it to the Old Testament thing and then over to the New Testament thing. I guess we'll probably do that tomorrow. But I want to invite you to think about one more thing that has maybe happened in your life. And that is a thing where you go and burn somebody like that. And then before you even go and ask for them to forgive you, to take you back, to trust you, you're really sorry, but we need to work together. I need something from you. They come to you and preempt everything. They come to you while you're metaphorically staring down the drain, staring out the window as another afternoon of opportunity goes away. They come to you and release you from that guilt with forgiveness and understanding. Have you experienced that? I have. It is the most relationally lopsided, shocking, wow, I did not deserve that, and I don't think I would have done that if the roles were reversed kind of feeling ever. it jars you out of a certain state of mind, the same way the priest giving Valjean the silver jarred him out of a state of mind and changed the entire trajectory of his life. This looks like a simple little housekeeping. Okay, let's get together for the next meeting so we can talk more about the agenda items for Q2 coming up here after we get together for our summit in Galilee. No, it ain't that. This isn't housekeeping. What he's saying is, we're good. Now let's get on to the next thing. Hey, I don't normally indulge in too much life advice or stuff like that. I mean, it's a 10-minute Bible Hour podcast. It's the Bible without the sermon. Part of the reason for that is because I don't totally know what I'm doing myself, but I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to throw one suggestion out. You got something that's broken, I bet, and you have the keys for somebody to forgive a thing before they ask, to go and fix something that's really broken. I don't know if it'll be reconciled like it is in Matthew 28. That is like things put back together and moving forward together. But there's some relationship, there's something out there that you have the ability to cover in that balm of grace and forgiveness that we see Jesus handing along to his disciples here. And if I may be so bold as a stranger from the internet, I would just throw this out. Maybe start thinking about what it would look like to do that. Maybe pick up the phone and call somebody today. If you like the way it looks on paper right here, you might really like the way it looks and it feels in real life as well. I'll think about it too. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.